Hello, everybody. How are you today? I am doing well. This is Heather, and we are looking at Deus Ex Invisible War. Here's the best thing you can do in Deus Ex Invisible War. Ready? Kobe. That's not true. This is not the best thing you can do in Deus Ex Invisible War, but this game does have a reputation for being absolutely terrible. And it's so terrible that I'm going to play through the entire tutorial for you and talk about it. I don't know, actually, if I think this game is terrible. I think it's not a good Deus Ex game. And we'll talk about why that is as we go through it. It's a game that, if it didn't have the branding that it did and didn't have to follow up on what is basically one of the most beloved and influential Western games of all time, no problem. The game would actually probably have done really well. But it's a Deus Ex game, which means that it has to do a hell of a lot. And it's already failing right here in this opening sequence with this discussion. This discussion is a ton of expository stuff that I don't really care about necessarily right away. The whole idea here is that you are a trainee at an academy called Tarsus Academy, which is sort of this weird mix of like nanotech Hogwarts and like a private military company. And that by itself is really cool, but it's not really gripping me right away because I'm just talking with this like project director who I have no connection with, whereas in the original Deus Ex, the first person you talk to is your brother. You walk out and you're going to... Oh, actually, this guy gets hit. This guy gets got right there really bad. I wanted to talk about that for 2 seconds. Look at the guy get got. In Deus Ex, you talk to your brother, and you're on your way to sneak into the Statue of Liberty, and he meets up with you, and you have this nice little conversation because it's like the first time he's seen you since you graduated into UNATCO, which is this crazy multilateral, multinational peacekeeping initiative. And it's a really nice discussion, and then also at the end of that discussion, you have like a choice to make. You actually have like a choice that the game offers you that has repercussions, and that your brother, Paul, actually cares about. He offers you a choice of weapons. He says, I have 3 things, but I'll give you 1. He says, I'll give you a dart gun, a sniper rifle, or a rocket launcher, and you can choose. And when you get to the dart gun, he's like, yeah, we don't kill people, that's awesome. But if you choose like the sniper rifle, he's like, use it when you need to. The rocket launcher, he's like, use it only on the robots. Like, he has an opinion on it. And also, choosing these things means something. It affects your gameplay. Here, I'm at my 3rd conversation in. I'm meeting up with this character, Billy. She's supposed to be like one of my classmates that I have some sort of connection to. But it's very bland conversation. It feels very sterile. There's this thing where the game wants to set up a relationship with Billy because she's going to end up being like your rival, and it just doesn't work out. And the pattern that you're going to see over and over in this opening segment is I'm going to travel for a bit, do something, and then I'm going to stop and talk to someone, or then I'm going to stop for loading times. And don't worry, gang, I have edited out the loading times because the loading time in this game is ridiculous, whether or not you are on PC or you are on console. It's bad either way around. This is not a very crowning technical achievement. In fact, look at that, crossfade. You don't have to see like the 5 minutes of bullshit that I had to put up with. You just get to see like the near 15 minutes of bullshit instead. And here's a great indicator of that. I have to talk to a person, go through a loading screen, talk to another person. Now, in theory, I didn't necessarily have to talk to that guard, but this is Deus Ex. It really rewards and incentivizes you to speak with all the people in the world, whether that's to get more information about the world, whether that's to sort of get potential items that will help you, whether that's to sort of get a little side quest, like maybe that guy wanted me to go and get the body of his comrade and like bring it to him or something, I don't know, whatever. There could have been a side quest there. There's all these potential things for us to explore, and the game sort of funnels you from point to point. Talking to these people is interesting. You're going to talk with other Academy trainees, you're going to talk with Clara, and you're going to talk with Leo Jankowski, who's a real motherfucker. And the nice thing with them is that at least it's setting up stuff that will get payoff later on in the story. What happens is like all the trainees basically join different ideological groups. Clara will join the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization, which is like this crazy like corporate conglomerate that's really like pseudo-fascist, but also like kind of nice about it. Leo Jankowski, this cocky son of a bitch right here, ends up joining the Omar, which are basically what would happen if the Borg from Star Trek were Russian and decided to sell like biomods and nanotech on the black market. Billy ends up joining the Knights Templar, which is actually controlling this church called the Order. The Order itself is like a nice church full of like genuine believers, but the Templars control it, and they're all against augmentation and will like totally plunge the world into this crazy Luddite paradise, or at least that's their goal. And it's interesting, and all of these characters that you meet up early in the game sort of become the mouthpieces for these ideological groups alongside some of their sort of like their leaders. And that's really nice. I think this game has a certain sense of continuity to it, where it offers you characters and offers you connection to these characters. But then the gameplay itself and everything else is sort of rough. Like, this is kind of exciting. Like, finally stuff is happening. We're being attacked. What's going on? Oh my gosh, I have to run to my locker and get equipment. But it's also a different pacing than the original Deus Ex. The original Deus Ex, I'm sneaking into the Statue of Liberty. I'm sneaking through an open courtyard, around some guards. I have a lot of space. Space is this huge thing in Deus Ex games. I have a lot of options to navigate that space. And right now, in Invisible War, I'm really confined to corridors and, like, tight spaces, and I just kind of funnel from one location to the other. There's not a lot of freedom. And that sense of freedom is important to Deus Ex because one of the big things about Deus Ex is that you have freedom in the gameplay to express yourself in ways that are meaningful in the sense that they reflect something about you as a player and you as a character. Choosing the dart gun over the sniper rifle implies something about who JC Denton is as a character. Here, I have a choice basically to sneak behind enemies or to, like, attack them. That's, like, the only choice I have. I don't have really big choices in terms of, like, maybe you'll sneak over here and knock them out. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe I can walk out here and talk with them and use, like, some weird, crazy dialogue tree option to tell them to stand down, right? Maybe I intimidate them. I walk out and I say, hey, I'm a super crazy nanotech warrior of doom. Don't fuck with me. The game doesn't offer you those options. It just says, hey, maybe you'll sneak, maybe you'll shoot. And honestly, the end results don't really matter. The game doesn't really track all of these things. It doesn't really comment on these things too much. Deus Ex was very concerned with commenting on the player. It made sense that the game really cared about the player because it also was a game that wanted to say things about the world at large. It wanted to be about government oversight and overreach. It wanted to be about personal responsibility. It wanted to be about religion. There's an AI in that game that you talk to. His name is Morpheus. He's fucking amazing. And he has this amazing quote where he's like, God was a dream of good government. And you're like, robot, let's talk. You're also a robot. Like, there's interesting stuff there. The world of Deus Ex Invisible War is interesting. It has all these very lush and sort of diverse factions, but you don't have a lot of really great interactions with them. Billy is talking all about, hey, Tarsus has been experimenting on us, what's going on with them? Like, that's a good core mystery, but it's not really propelling me forward in a way that I find completely satisfactory. Look at that crossfade again. Look at that, cutting out them load times. For the record, I'm playing this on the Xbox. I tried to get it to work on my PlayStation, not my PlayStation, that's something else, on my PC. Don't know why I said PlayStation. I tried to get it working on my PC. It's really hard to get working on modern PCs. So instead, I busted out the Xbox and a FrameMeister, and I'm upscaling this, hopefully, to a nice 60 frames per second, but I don't know if that's possible. This whole affair, going from a loading zone to another guy who will tell me that we can sneak or shoot, it's all so reductive. The biggest problem with Deus Ex Invisible War is that it reduces the complexities of the original Deus Ex down to things like simple binary choices, or just really uninspired sort of level, like spaces, like level design. The level design in this game is not very interesting because it doesn't offer me a lot of vectors through which I can like explore it, or attack it, or use it to my advantage. I just can sort of maybe move one route or another. And to some degree, that's what all level design is in like every game. Like, you just have a limited amount of like A, B, C, D choices, but they're just masked through highly competent world building and like conveyance. Like, hey, maybe you can go here, maybe you go here, and the game kind of implies it to you. But Deus Ex also did a thing where it like wouldn't tell you some solutions. You could maybe go and hack this one thing and find a code, but you wouldn't know until you did it. Meanwhile, Invisible War has this interesting core conflict that I want to learn more about. I want to know why this academy is testing on me. I want to know what they're doing. But the academy space, like, there's nothing about the space that implies, like, anything interesting. And I keep on going from point to point. I'm going to fade right here and cut so that I can get to the next segment. And the minute, again, that I come into this next segment, I'm talking to a character that I have such little connection with. And they're not very colorful either. They drop a lot of exposition. They like to tell you about the world and the systems of the world. Deus Ex Invisible War is really concerned with you liking its world and its systems. The original Deus Ex kind of tried to balance that a little bit more with, like, characters. Human Revolution does this too, like, talking to David Seraph gives you information about how people feel about augmentation in the Deus Ex world, but Seraph has, like, feelings and opinions and is, like, energetic and kind of likable. All of these characters are pretty blank. Not that the original Deus Ex is really dynamic, but it's not terrible, right? There are people there in that game world that you want to spend time with. Thus far, none of these characters are really that great. And that's rough, because one of the things that will ground you to any space are the connections that you form with those characters. And Deus Ex Invisible War just doesn't really offer you a lot of those. What it does offer is systems, and kind of reductive systems. It offers you these biomods, so this is finally something kind of dynamic. I'm going to go really stealthy here, so I'm going to choose, where is it? Cloaking, and then after that I think I'm going to choose thermal, where is it? Thermal masking, and then I'm also going to choose one where I can run quietly. These will all be handy later on in the game where you get, like, cool poison melee weapons and stuff. In the early game, it doesn't really shine too much, but we can see kind of the beginning of a complex system. Deus Ex Invisible War is in this really weird push and pull place. Also, another person I have to talk to. It's in this really weird push and pull place where it wants to be simultaneously complex, but also really accessible and really easy to parse. So the game gets rid of, like, heavy inventory management. It gets rid of ammo. It has universal ammo, so it's one ammo type for anything. You run out of ammo for your pistol, you don't have ammo for your sniper rifle. It's a streamlining that doesn't work. And then you have these systems which actually interact with the world in vaguely interesting ways, like I'm using my thermal masking, and I can move beyond that camera. And it's the first chance that we've had a hint of anything dynamic, but then right when I go past that and actually can, like, express myself by, like, using my biomods or, like, figuring out how I want to deal with this camera situation, it funnels me down a hallway again to these characters. And honestly, at this point, if you're like me, first off, if you made it this far, you deserve a thumbs up. This game is kind of rough, and it's really hard to get through this opening segment. Like, congratulations. But also at the same time, I think that experiencing this whole segment is kind of important in order to express the larger problems with Deus Ex Invisible War. Even Human Revolution, which isn't perfect by any means, kind of gets Deus Ex a little bit more. You can enter into this factory at the start. That's like your first mission, is to, like, save all these hostages. You have a lot of different ways to do it. Here, like, the fastest way, the most efficient way for me to get through here is to pick up this box and, like, throw it. And Deus Ex Invisible War has a big problem where it just doesn't have enough confidence in itself. It wants to be complicated, but then keeps on shooting itself in the leg. And I think we're getting towards the end here. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to shoot a few people before we get out of here, but just know that this game isn't terrible, but it just can't live up to the pedigree of the game that came before it. And thank gosh that, Human Revolution and it looks like Mankind Divided have sort of picked up the ball where this game dropped it. I'll see you around.